looking everywhere, that's how the story goes. Grab your gear.
In the heart of a golden empire, beauty and desire ruled every corner of the palace. Prince Devraj, bold and magnetic, was torn between duty and his dangerous passion for Princess Anaya, whose grace could bring kingdoms to their knees. Around them, the palace shimmered with charm. Mira, Roshni, Kavya, and other maidens of breathtaking allure filled the night with laughter, music, and forbidden games of seduction. But beneath the silks and jewels, a secret stirred. The ancient churning of the cosmic ocean had awakened powers that no mortal should touch. Nectar meant for immortals seeped into the veins of men and women who sought only pleasure. But what it gave was far more sinister. Whispers spread through the palace halls. Some lovers did not return from the night, and those who did were changed forever. Eyes glowing with hunger, hearts beating with something no longer human. By chapter 5, the glamorous world of love had begun to twist into shadows. Desire was no longer innocent. It carried the scent of blood, the echo of curses, the promise of death. The beautiful women once worshipped for their seduction now walked the thin line between enchantment and monstrosity. And this is only the beginning. What happens when lust becomes a curse? When beauty turns into horror? When the palace of pleasure becomes the palace of the damned? Stay tuned for chapter 6, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the Zombie Story Zone. The nightmare is only just beginning.
It's a crazy mix. With every twist and turn, we'll learn some new tricks.
Chapter 6, The Poisoned Embrace. The great temple doors trembled, then cracked. A gust of wind rushed in, heavy with the stench of rotting flesh and poison. The priests raised their arms, chanting, but their mantras were drowned by the deafening roar of the dead. The women shrieked as the first clawed hands broke through. Priya, clutching Rajiv, pulled him into a desperate kiss, her tears mingling with passion as she gasped, "Hold me. If death comes, let it find me in your arms." Rajiv kissed her back fiercely, his sword clattering to the floor as he gave in to her lips. Nearby, Padma danced defiantly in the flickering lamplight, her koli slipping lower, her laughter wild. "Come then, death," she cried, pulling 2 young men to her, kissing one, caressing the other. Her lehenga swirled, and for a moment even the priests faltered at the beauty of her defiance. Chandrika, pale in her white veil, clung to the priest's acolyte. He tried to chant, but her lips smothered his words, her body pressed to his as though lust itself could drown the poison. The undead surged inside. Skeletal forms, their skin blackened by venom, shuffled forward. One lunged at Nalini, its jaw snapping, but Varun dragged her away at the last moment. Nalini, trembling, pressed herself against him in gratitude, her lips finding his throat, her hands desperate on his chest. The air grew thick. Desire and death mingled, indistinguishable. Moans of lust collided with screams of terror. Some maidens cried out for their lovers. Others cried out as skeletal hands tore into them. Devika, radiant even in fear, stood at Arjun's side. Her hair spilled down her back, her red lehenga torn but glorious. "We must fight," she urged, fire in her eyes. Yet when Arjun grasped her, pulling her to him, she did not resist. Their lips met fiercely, bodies pressed as the world burned. The temple bells rang again, deeper, heavier, shaking the stone itself. The carvings of gods seemed to move, their eyes glowing faintly. The high priest screamed, "The poison has awakened the shadows. Shiva's curse stirs in this temple." The floor trembled. From the sanctum itself, a crack split the ground, black smoke curling upward. The idols bled dark ichor. The chandeliers of lamps toppled, spilling flames across the marble. The survivors screamed as shadows twisted into forms, half demon, half human. The undead pressed from without, the cursed shadows rose from within. And in the chaos, lust still burned, Maya biting Varun's lip until he bled, Chandrika pulling her acolyte to the floor, Padma moaning against the lips of 2 men, even as death loomed over them. But for others, horror claimed them. Sundari's screams split the air as a skeletal hand dragged her by her ankle into the black smoke. Radi sobbed against Ananta's chest as he swung a broken spear at the dead, swearing he would not let her go. The temple had become a theater of seduction and slaughter. And then, a roar erupted from the sanctum, deeper than thunder. The black smoke surged, forming the shape of a colossal serpent. its eyes glowing emerald fire. The poison of the ocean had taken form. The survivors froze, lips still pressed in kisses, bodies still locked in embraces, as the serpent's hiss shook the temple. Chapter 7: Serpent of Desire. The black smoke thickened until the great serpent took shape, scales shimmering like emerald fire, eyes glowing with hunger. Its hiss echoed through the temple, so low it seemed to vibrate within the bodies of every man and woman present. And then, the whispers began. The serpent's voice was not spoken aloud, but inside their minds. Sweet, intoxicating, dangerous. It slithered through their thoughts, promising pleasures forbidden, urging them toward betrayal, toward surrender. Padma, still pressed between her lovers, shuddered as her eyes glazed. "Yes, touch me more," she moaned, but her voice was no longer her own. Her lehenga slipped from her hips, and the men at her side groaned as though enchanted. Their kisses grew rougher, their eyes gleaming with madness. Chandrika, pale and trembling, turned on her acolyte. Her lips bruised his, her nails raked his chest, but in her eyes burned a venomous green light. The serpent had her now. "Give yourself to me," she whispered, "even if it kills you." Devika fought to resist. Clutching Arjun's hand, she cried, "Don't listen to it!" Yet the serpent's voice filled her skull with heat, urging her to let go of fear, to give in to lust that burned like fire. When Arjun's lips crushed hers, she tasted blood and ash, but her body trembled with need. The serpent's body coiled around the temple pillars, its scales scraped stone, shattering carvings of gods. Its tongue flicked toward the women, tasting their fear, their beauty, their lust. Priya, clinging to Rajiv, gasped, "It wants us! It feeds on this!" But still she could not stop her lips from pressing to his throat, biting him hard enough to draw blood. He groaned, eyes rolling back, his body surrendering even as death circled closer. And all around them, the undead swarmed. Their jaws snapped, their claws raked, yet even they seemed slowed, enchanted, drawn to the seduction in the air. Some of the corpses fell upon living women not to devour, but to touch, to hold, hot their bony hands groping through silk and skin. The serpent laughed, a sound like 1,000 hissing mouths. From the smoke, new horrors crawled forth. Women half alive, half rotting, their beauty preserved in fragments. One had perfect lips but hollow eyes. Another had golden skin torn open to reveal bone beneath. They moved like dancers, swaying seductively, their anklets jingling, their smiles irresistible. The maidens screamed, but some could not look away. Nalini, trembling, whispered, "There, beautiful." She reached out toward one, but Varun seized her wrist, pulling her back. The creature hissed, baring jagged teeth where her lips once glowed red with sindoor. The serpent's whispers grew louder. Lust was no longer a choice. It was a curse. Every touch burned hotter. Every kiss felt like drowning. Every embrace drew them closer to damnation. And then, the serpent's head lowered, massive as the temple doors. Its eyes locked upon Maya, whose lips were still red with Varun's blood. "You?" it hissed in her mind. "You shall be my bride." Maya gasped, her body trembling as though every nerve was aflame. She looked at Varun, then at the serpent, and for the first time, she smiled. The survivors froze in horror as Maya stepped forward, her lehenga shimmering in the firelight, her anklets chiming with every step. Chapter 8: The Serpent Bride. The great serpent's eyes locked on Maya, as if she were the only soul in the temple. Its tongue flickered across her skin from a distance, tasting her beauty, her blood, her fire. "Maya," whispered the voice in her mind, "you are mine now, my bride, my goddess of venom and desire." Her breath came ragged, her chest rising beneath the jeweled choli that barely clung to her. She looked back once at Varun, who stood trembling, his face pale with fear, and something darker, something like longing. Then she smiled, a smile so wicked and radiant it made every man in the temple's heart pound like war drums. Stepping forward, Maya let her lehenga slide down, pooling at her feet like liquid flame. Her anklets jingled with each movement, her hips swaying as though she were dancing at her own wedding. The serpent hissed in delight, lowering its massive head until its jeweled scales brushed against her skin. The others cried out. "Don't!" screamed Devika, clutching Arjun's arm. "She's becoming one of them!" gasped Priya, pulling at Rajiv. But it was too late. The serpent's coils rose, wrapping around Maya, not crushing her, but caressing her, like a lover's embrace. Its tongue flicked across her lips, and in that instant her eyes turned green, glowing with venomous fire. The temple shook. The The half-rotted women, the undead courtesans, fell to their knees, bowing before Maya as though she were their queen. Even the shambling corpses paused, their jaws slack, enchanted by her presence. She turned to the mortals, her once friends. "Why fight it?" she purred, her voice echoing with the serpent's power. "Look at me. See what I've become. Eternal beauty, eternal desire." She walked among them, the serpent's coils following her like a bridal veil. When she touched Nalini's cheek, the girl shuddered, her eyes fluttering with forbidden pleasure. When Maya's lips brushed Rajiv's throat, he groaned, sinking to his knees as though surrendering to a queen. Chandrika tried to resist, raising her ceremonial dagger. "You're cursed," she cried. But when Maya's glowing eyes met hers, Chandrika's arm faltered. The blade fell to the ground. Her lips parted in a moan, and she stepped closer instead of striking. Maya kissed her. The entire temple gasped as Chandrika's body stiffened, her skin paling, veins darkening beneath the surface. When the kiss broke, her eyes too glowed green. She smiled cruelly, sliding to Maya's side like a new bride maiden. The serpent roared with delight. One by one, the women of the temple, maidens in lehengas, dancers with anklets, priestesses with coal-lined eyes, felt the poison of desire twist through them. Some resisted, clinging to their lovers, but others swayed forward, drawn to Maya's glow, unable to resist her beauty. The temple had a new mistress. And as Maya raised her arms, emerald fire bursting from her fingertips, she whispered, "Tonight, my wedding begins, and every one of you will dance at it, whether in love, in lust, or in death." The serpent hissed, coiling tighter around the temple pillars, cracking stone as dust rained down. The undead shrieked in chorus, their rotting hands clapping as though in ritual applause. The survivors looked on in terror. They were no longer trapped in a temple of gods. They were trapped in the bridal chamber of the serpent bride. Chapter 9. The Wedding of Poison and Fire. The temple bells tolled on their own, deep and resonant, as if announcing a wedding no mortal priest dared sanctify. The air grew thick with incense, though the smoke was tinged with the metallic tang of blood. The serpent slithered in slow circles around Maya, each movement making her jeweled anklets jingle like bridal music. She stood at the center, draped not in silk but in the serpent's own coils, her choli torn and jeweled skin glowing with unearthly green light. In her hair, garlands of fresh flowers turned black, their petals wilting as soon as they touched her body. The undead courtesans chanted in hushed voices, swaying like dancers in a wedding procession. Their lehengas swirled, their rotting hands offering lotus blooms now dripping with black ichor instead of nectar. Maya lifted her hand and beckoned to the living. "Come," she whispered. "Celebrate with me. Tonight I wed eternity." Her voice carried both honey and venom. Rajiv staggered forward, unable to resist, until Priya clung to him desperately, pressing her lips to his chest as if to shield him. Devika wept openly, torn between fear and the enchantment pulling her toward Maya. The serpent reared its massive head, lowering its fangs to brush against Maya's throat. Instead of piercing her, it caressed her with lethal intimacy. She leaned back into it, moaning softly, as if every drop of venom dripping onto her skin was ecstasy. The temple walls seemed to bleed. Torches flared green. And then, in a voice that was both her own and the serpent's, Maya declared, "Let the wedding feast begin." At once, the undead swarmed forward, not to attack, but to dance. Their skeletal feet struck the floor like toll drums, their bangles clattering in unholy rhythm. Living maidens, overcome by Maya's aura, tore at their own veils and spun among them, their laughter high and wild, their eyes burning with emerald fire. Chandrika, already transformed by Maya's kiss, became the first of the bridesmaids. Her lehenga shimmered with venomous sheen as she entwined her arms around Maya, kissing her cheek in adoration. Others followed, Nalini, Devika, even trembling Priya, drawn into the circle of lust and death. Only Arjun still resisted, clutching his sword with white knuckles. His eyes darted between Maya, so beautiful, so deadly, and the serpent, whose massive coils threatened to crush them all. "Maya!" he shouted. "Fight it! This isn't you!" But when Maya turned to him, her glowing eyes softened. For a moment, her old self flickered, and love, real love, shone through. Then, the serpent hissed, and the moment shattered. She smiled at Arjun, but it was no longer a mortal smile. It was the promise of a queen who wanted to drag him into her poisoned embrace. The ceremony reached its climax. The serpent opened its maw, venom dripping like a bridal garland. Maya raised her arms to receive it, her lips parting in welcome. The survivors realized with dawning horror, this was not a wedding of love. It was a consummation of hunger. When the serpent's venom touched Maya fully, she would no longer be human at all. She would become the mother of a new brood of deathless brides. And she wanted her friends to be her first gifts to the serpent. Chapter 10, The Serpent's Bride. The moment the serpent lowered its dripping fangs to Maya's lips, the temple shuddered like the earth itself was revolting. Cracks split across the marble floor, flames burst from oil lamps without being touched, and shadows of long-dead kings flickered on the walls as if they had gathered to witness this dreadful union. Maya tilted her head back in surrender. Poison slid into her mouth like molten honey, glowing green as it traced her throat. Her body arched, trembling in a mixture of agony and ecstasy. Every jewel on her lehenga glowed with an inner fire, until it seemed her entire form was forged of venomous light. The courtesans screamed in delight, clapping their rotting hands. Their gungroos jingled in feverish rhythm as they danced faster, their flesh peeling with every spin, but their movements more seductive than ever. Living maidens joined them willingly, their colas slipping from their shoulders, their anklets breaking as they flung themselves into the frenzy of lust and death. Arjun charged forward, sword raised, but Chandrika blocked him, no longer a frightened friend, but a transformed siren. Her eyes burned emerald, her lips smeared with venom. "She is ours now," she whispered, trailing her hand across his chest before trying to pull him into a kiss that reeked of death. Rajiv struggled against Priya's grip, torn between love and the madness of desire. Devika, sobbing, pressed her forehead against the temple floor, begging Maya to remember her humanity. But Maya, glowing and terrible, lifted her arms as if claiming the entire world. The serpent hissed, its voice echoing inside every skull. Immortality has a bride, and she is hunger itself. Maya's hair streamed like black fire, her veil turning to serpents. She stepped down from the altar, each footfall leaving venomous flames in its wake. With every step, another maiden collapsed, either writhing in agony or rising again, undead, eyes blazing with green fire. Priya screamed as venom dripped onto her arm, searing her skin. Rajiv tried to tear her away, but the poison spread like wildfire. She clutched his face, kissed him desperately with her dying breath, and whispered, "Love me, even beyond death." Her body convulsed, and when her eyes opened again, they glowed emerald. One by one, the temple filled with Maya's brides. Beautiful women in lehengas and cholis, their bodies moving with seductive grace, their touch laced with venom. Each kiss, each caress turned men into thralls, slaves to the serpent's hunger. Arjun roared, driving his sword deep into the serpent's flesh. Green blood sprayed across the temple floor, sizzling as it burned through stone. The serpent shrieked, shaking the heavens, and Maya screamed with it, half in pain, half in fury. For an instant, she turned back to Arjun, her voice breaking. "Kill me, Arjun, before it is too late." But her brides encircled him, their anklets jingling, their eyes glowing, their laughter ringing like wedding bells from hell. Chandrika pressed her venomous lips close to his ear and whispered, "She doesn't want freedom. She wants you to be hers, forever." The serpent reared higher, tearing through the temple roof, lightning splitting the sky as its massive head blotted out the moon. The apocalypse had begun. And at the heart of it all, Maya, the serpent's bride, spread her arms, her smile both seductive and terrifying, ready to claim every soul for her poisoned eternity. The Poisoned Dawn. The temple lay in ruins, its pillars shattered, its sacred carvings melted by venom. The first light of dawn spilled across the battlefield, but it brought no peace. Instead, it revealed the truth. The kingdom had fallen silent. The once lively courtyards were now filled with women in colis and lehengas, their beauty untouched, their eyes glowing with emerald fire. They stood like statues at every corner, brides of the serpent, waiting, watching. Their lips glistened with poison, their bangles chimed softly as they moved in eerie unison. Arjun staggered through the wreckage, bloodied and broken, clutching the hilt of his shattered sword. He called out Maya's name, his voice echoing hopelessly. From the shadows, she appeared, no longer the woman he loved, but a goddess of venom. Her veil of serpents hissed, her skin shimmered with the glow of poison, and her smile carried both love and hunger. "Maya," Arjun whispered, tears streaming down his face. She touched his cheek, soft as a lover, deadly as a curse. "Arjun, come to me. Be mine, forever." He fell to his knees, torn between desire and terror, as her brides circled him in a haunting dance. Their anklets jingled like funeral bells, their laughter sweet and hollow. Far away, in villages untouched, whispers spread like wildfire. Open quote, "The serpent has found a bride. The women dance by night, their kisses bring death. The age of mortals is over, the age of the undead has begun." Close quote. The sun rose higher, but its light could not burn away the poison. Instead, it gleamed across a world forever changed, where beauty itself was the deadliest weapon, and love had become the doorway to eternal hunger. The serpent's hiss echoed across the land, carried by the wind, as if the entire earth now breathed with its venom. And in that sound was the promise of what was yet to come. The story may end here, but the dance of the serpent's brides has only just begun.
Grin and laughter, it's a crazy mix. With every twist and turn, we'll learn new tricks. Grab your friends, like Sky my name. In the zombie story, so let the fun begin. Grin and laughter, it's a crazy mix. With every twist and turn,